Programming variables. Another free lesson to help you become a better coder. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Your continued support helps make these videos possible. And as always, I thank you all for watching this video. So in this video, I want to talk about the variables in programming. They are defined with data types such as string, integer, double, date, etc. And their modifier can be a global or local. So let's take a look at them in MS Access. Alright, let's go to our Access. There it is. Let's open it up. Let's go to let's make new folder. Actually, I made a folder in here, so let's go in there. It's called programming, right about there. And let's make a new folder here. In here, it's called variables. And let's name this database same variables. So what I want to do here is I want to talk about variables a little bit, and yeah, to be able to program, you gotta know this. All right. In the old days, we had to. This is the first thing that we learned about variables. So yes, I've done many videos, but I have never touched on what variables are. That's because I saved the best thing last. Well, not really last. There are going to be more coming. Alright, so let's go into here. Let's go back to code behind. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and save this form. Let's save this form. Let's call this test screen. Alright, now let's go back to the code behind. So variables are nothing more than a placeholder on the RAM, on the computer RAM. Alright, anytime we define variables, like right now I am defining variable first name as string. So when I define a variable such as this one, first name, I am telling the computer to, hey, give me a slot for this variable so that I can hold the information with this name. And that's what it is. Alright, so once you define this one, and as soon as you start running, it's a runtime, the program, the computer, allocates a location with this name marked. And so when we move back and forth, the computer goes to that marker. Alright, a marker in C, we call it pointer. Alright, here in Access, it's easy just to understand it's a marker. So the program knows exactly where this name is located with the allocated slot. Alright, so that's what the variable is. Alright, and how is it used? Well, let's follow through and see how this guy is used. So I'm going to create a couple of this guy. We got first name, last name as string. Alright, now variable, when defining a variable like I am doing now, you must give it a data type. Alright, so in here you can see as data type of string. I'm going to add a couple more so that you understand. So age as integer. How about date of birth as date. See there? And that's how we defined variables. Alright, now if you define variables out here, we call that global variables. Alright, now these global variables are for this form only. Alright, to make these variables accessible throughout the application, we do that. But be caution, you don't want to do that. Alright, you would never ever wanting to do this public unless you intentionally do want it to be that way. Alright, so my recommendation is always make this guy a public, and you are safe. So there will not be a collision with other forms or other files that you add in. Alright, so that's called global variables. Now how do you make a local variable? Well, a local variable looks like this. You create a subroutine. How about call this guy set user info. Alright, and when you define things in here, for instance, test as string, maybe test1 here, test1 as string, test2 as number, for instance. So we call this local because it lives inside of the subroutine. Alright, this guy, well, as number, there's no such thing as number, is either integer, my bad, there. So these variables are local because they live inside of the subroutine. So that's how we define them. So just remember, this is local, global. Alright, now they are global because they can be used or accessible throughout this form regardless of where. Meaning I can say first name equals Jack, last name equals Pentagon, age equals 10, date of birth equals. Now in US we type it like this: January 1, 2010. That's the year. Now the majority of you guys who's been watching this, I noticed, are from all over the place. Europe, South America, Southeast Asia. Got a variety of colony here. We've got a melting pot here in this channel, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So what you do, instead of typing like this, you want to do like this. Alright, that way it's safe across the board regardless of where you live. Alright, so regardless of where you live, you could be in Europe, you could be in Spain, you can be in Russia, China, Argentina, Cambodia, whatever. Alright, this is how you set it. Alright, now with my calendar I created earlier, I had forgotten about you guys. I apologize. But don't worry, I will fix it for you. I had forgotten about the dates. Alright, so if you're watching this one and you were having issues with your dates, regardless of what application you write in, this is how you want to set your date. Alright, so you set your date serial. The first one, you notice it says year, so I'm going to say 2010. I was born in 2010. The second one, I say month, so that would be, where is I was born in January, and then the day. Alright, For instance, this is February 2nd. If you do that, you are good. That's all you have to do. Alright, that is all you have to do. So if you define your date this way with the date serial, it will convert it to your country format. Alright, and you are safe regardless of where you are. So that's how you define your date. Alright, and again, I apologize for the calendar. Alright, but many of you guys had issues with that. I apologize. Alright, let's go back to all variables. Alright, so that's how you set your variables. Alright, so that's how you set your variables. Alright, and you say, well, what good does it do if it lives in the code behind? Okay, alright, let me give you more controls. So here you see it says text box right there. Let's add that text box down here, and then that text box comes with label. Alright, text box comes with label. Yeah, so I'm gonna add a couple of them. Copy this guy one. Yeah, I think that's good. And then we're just gonna drop this guy down just a tad. So you see these are labels. These are text box controls. Alright, now these two guys are essentially the same as variables that we just defined in here. Right, they are the same as these guys. The only difference is that this guy lives in the code behind. This guy lives in the front end where all the users see. Alright, that's the only difference. Okay, and the labels and the controls are essentially the same. The only exception is that the text box, you enter stuff in there. Alright, you type stuff in there. You cannot type in the label. But why are there variables? Because you set things to them. Alright, just like we set things to them, like this one. I set Jack to be first name. I set my Panyagon to be my last name. I set 10 to be age. I set February, or let's make this one January. I said January 2nd, 2010 to be my date of birth. So when you set things like this, they are variables. Alright, you can only set things to variables or properties. Alright, so here you can set things to this guy. Alright, and that's why they are variables. Alright, so let's define this guy, and let's go further to make sure you understand and know that these guys are labels. Variables. Alright, so let's give it a prefix. TXT, first name, and this one label, a prefix, LBL. Now you can label them, prefix them anywhere you want. Alright, this is just my preference. I use 3 characters as a prefix. The text box, you can just type in TX, I understand, or just T. I just like the 3 character prefix, TXT, last name. Alright, and let's go to the next one. This one is age, LBL, age. Text box, TXT, age. And this is why you always define your labels and your text boxes, so that if you happen to want to change things in them, you can. This last one is date of birth. Alright, so I'm gonna change that guy, TXT, date of birth. Alright, I'm gonna copy that guy and delete the top one. Oops, delete this guy. I'm gonna call this guy let's make this guy widest for now, and then pull them out for now, and that will become useful when I explain things. And I'm gonna make this guy border style solid. There, just something. Alright, let's give this guy a name. This will be txt. Let's call it info, that's fine. And this one is lbl info. Alright, so if we run this guy, that's what you see. Alright, see this text 0000, that's predefined. That was default, not predefined, but that was default. Alright, and these text boxes, there's nothing in it because we have not set anything in there. Now let's go back to our code behind. Alright, we can also type in sub display user info. Alright, and here we can say, see how we are doing it now, and this is why I call them variable. You see, here we're gonna say first, oops, name, and maybe give it a little space there. You see there? So anytime you can set stuff like I am setting right now, alright, they are essentially variable. Alright, because if they're not variables, you cannot set information to them. You see, age. So these guys are variable. Alright, just remember that. DOB caption, and then DOB, like so. Alright, so let's see if we can call this guy and make use of him. Yeah, let's do this. Let's call this guy first. Call. Now watch. Earlier on you saw them as text 0000. Now watch. You see there? First name, last name, age, date of birth. And that's the reason why they are variables, is because you can set them. If they're not variables, you cannot set them. So we essentially is telling the computer, hey, allocate a memory slot for my label name LBL first name. So that's why they are variables. Alright, now we're going to go further. Okay, we're going to go further. Let's go back to code behind again. You see how we set these guys right here, and I told you these were global, and we were able to access them through inside this subroutine. Alright, well, let's do them. Let's go further. Now we can set this guy first name. You see, that's how we use them. Alright, that's how we use them. And then age, date of birth, date of birth. So when you are ready to display this information, then you can say, okay, show me this information on the screen. So these controls, these variables, live on the form on the front end, just like these labels. Alright, but these guys live in the code behind. Why do we define this one? Well, maybe you want to go into the database, for example, dim or as bracket set, and you go to the table and grab information, and then you just set them right here. And then once you're done that, you set them right here. Alright, but you can, you can do whatever. I just want to explain to you about the variables. So now let's run it again. Oops, we need to make a call. So then we can say set up this guy. So remember, a subroutine you can only call. Alright, it says sub right here, it means subroutine. You can only make a call. Alright, and I will show you another type of variable. So now you can see these text boxes are the variables. Labels also are the variables. They are set to these guys. You see, they are set to this guy. Alright, so that's how variables work. Now the good things about these variables right here, alright, when we set them like this, we can use them anywhere on this form. Not only we can use them anywhere on this form, we can do a whole lot with them. So if you notice, I have this guy called info. You see, I'm going to say name, first name. You're not limited to just set them in just one control. Alright, but you can also do this, last name, and then we're going to say age. See, and then we're going to say date of birth. And I'm going to copy this guy and show you that the label, info, caption, see, these are the variables, these are also variables, these are also variables, and that's how you use them. Alright, now the benefit of having these guys like this is so that if you were to go to the database and set information like this, and then later on decide to concatenate them, just like I done here, alright, you can do that too. And one other thing, you notice this date serial, and that guy displays correctly. Alright, so let's take a look at them now. Oops, I meant to say Control S. Alright, I'm going to close this out and let's open it up. There, you see there? And that's why text control and text box control and label controls are variables, because we can set information to them. Another variable that you would not have thought of for some of you are the function name. Alright, for instance, if I turn this guy into function and I want the returned information as boolean, now this name right here becomes a variable, just like this guy. You see, this name right here becomes a variable, just like that guy. Alright, and so here at the end I can say true. You see, it knows that function name is a variable because it says true. Just like if I did this one, okay, as boolean, and if I come down here somewhere, say okay, watch, see, and that's why the two are variables. Alright, so just remember that any function name they are variables. Alright, these function names are variables. The subroutine name are not variables, they're just the name of the subroutine. But this one, not only that they're the name of the function, alright, this guy also is a variable with the data type boolean. So how would you do that? You cannot make a call to this guy. You want to use this guy just like a variable, like this. If set user, then like so. Now this statement is the same as true. That's the same thing. I just like doing this using a default. By default is true. You see, by default is true when you set it that way. Alright, now we're gonna test it. We're gonna make it not true. We're gonna test not true like this. I'm gonna copy this guy, take that out, and we'll say not set. So now you can say if set information is false. See? And you say not set. So if it's not false, then it's true, then it jumps in here. Another way to set not false is put a not in here. If not set user info, then do this. Alright, so now I'm going to intentionally make this guy a false so that it goes in here. Let's take a look. Close that out. See there? Not set. Alright, so if it's not set, see how it's not set? So if it's not set, it never come in here. Alright, now I'm going to change this guy to true. Now it becomes true, so it's going to jump in here. Let's save that and close that form. Open it up. There. So that's how the variables work. Alright, so in summary, these are global variables. Alright, any variables that you define in here, such as this guy that I just did as boolean, for instance, this is called local variable. Alright, also the function name, make sure it's function now. Function name is also a variable. And last thing, you cannot call a function, but you can set a function. For instance, I can define a local variable like OK as boolean, and then I can say OK equals to, let me fix it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Oops. And say if OK, then that's the same thing. Same thing what we just did, except I just want to show you the function. You have to set them or validate them. Alright, in this case we set OK to equal this variable, and that variable is a function name. You see, that variable is a function name right here. Whatever it comes out from there, in this case is true, it's going to be right here. And now we can validate OK. If OK, actually if not OK, If not okay, it says no set. So that's how that works. All right, so that's what I want to share with you. And all good programmers have this thing down pat. Okay, they understand this and they use this wisely. And if you don't understand the variables, you are not going to go too far in programming. All right, and make sure you study them correctly and use them correctly. All right, define the data type correctly and you will be fine. All right, so yeah, make sure you understand the variables. All right, and know what are the variables. Okay, so here I share with you that the front end text controls and label controls are also variables. All right, they just live in the front end or on the screen or on the form, whereas the other ones that we defined here live in the back end, and the information still inside the back here. All right, so there you have it. Just nice and brief, something I want to share with you, because I noticed several of you guys, after helping you, I noticed that you were not using variables correctly. All right. One other thing. Just set. When you set a global variable out here, for instance, first name, you cannot set a local variable first name. All right. These would collide. All right. It will not bark at you, but it will not know what to do with this guy. All right, it doesn't know which one to refer to. Okay, so make sure you define these guys correctly. Make sure you don't have the local or global names the same. All right, and similarly, I mentioned this, the database, the data table name cannot be the same as the column name. All right, so make sure you understand that. That's all I want to rant about and share with you, is the variables. All right, happy programming. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe, like, share, and hit that bell. And also comment below, and if you need help, inbox me. Thanks again.